Okay, imagine this. A predator lurking in the deep sea. It's evolved this strategy that's just incredibly audacious. So effective, it routinely takes these clean, like ice cream scoop-sized chunks of flesh out of creatures maybe 100 times bigger. We're talking great white sharks, huge whales diving deep, even massive marlin.
And here's the thing, this predator. It's not some giant sea monster. It's actually tiny. A sleek little phantom shark, rarely longer than your forearm. And what's even wilder, its impact goes beyond nature. It's actually been documented attacking and functionally disabling some of our most advanced tech, nuclear submarines.
That is just the ultimate paradox, isn't it? So today we're plunging deep into the profile of the world's weirdest and, yeah, currently the only known parasitic shark, the cookiecutter shark. Its scientific name is Acistius brasiliensis, sometimes called the cigar shark, because of its shape, apparently.
Right, that sort of stout torpedo look. Our mission, then, for you listening, is to really decode how this tiny nightmare manages to survive and actually thrive by feeding so aggressively on the biggest, fiercest animals in the ocean. How does something so small punch so incredibly far above its weight?
It really forces you to rethink what success looks like down there in the deepest parts of the ocean. It's a small creature, max length maybe half a meter, like you said.
Yeah, tiny. But its territory, absolutely massive. It circles the globe in warm ocean waters, constantly moving, migrating. But the really unique story, I think, starts with how it looks and its daily routine.
Visually, yeah, it definitely checks all the boxes for a classic movie monster. If you ever get to see one, which is rare, you notice those huge, bulging green eyes, right? And that stubby, almost flat nose, these really specialized suction cup lips, and then that eerie, glowing underside. It's properly weird looking.
It really is. But those features, those visual characteristics, they're actually perfect blueprints for a deep-sea assassin. Let's start with the eyes. They're oval, they're large, and they're positioned kind of forward on the head, which means they're specifically adapted for that incredibly low light environment deep down.
Okay, so they help it see in the dark.
Exactly. And the forward position gives them limited binocular vision, so better depth perception. Crucial for calculating a quick, precise strike in near total darkness.
But the energy-saving thing, that's the real trick, isn't it? How they manage to just hang out down there. Most sharks have to keep swimming or they sink.
Right, but the cookie cutter seems to almost defy gravity down there. And that comes down to this amazing adaptation for buoyancy, no swim bladder. Instead, it has this enormous liver just packed with oil. That liver can be, get this, up to 35% of its entire body weight.
Wow. 35%.
Yeah, and since oil is way less dense than water, it basically gives the shark natural flotation. It doesn't have to burn all that precious energy constantly swimming just to stay put in the water column.
So it saves all that energy. What does it spend it on then? Because that seems to lead right into its whole hunting strategy.
Yeah, precisely. That stored energy lets it perform one of the most incredible feats in marine biology, a massive daily vertical migration. We're talking kilometers every single day.
Kilometers vertically.
Yep. As the sun sets, it swims rapidly upwards, closer to the surface, and hunts through the darkest part of the night. Then, just as dawn breaks, as light starts hitting the horizon, it retreats, back down into the crushing pressure of the deep water.
It genuinely sounds like some kind of oceanic vampire, avoiding the light, built for this nocturnal, high-speed smash and grab life. But okay, how does this tiny thing with teeth that must be pretty small compared to a great white's actually manage to carve out a huge chunk of flesh from something huge and probably moving fast?
The mechanism. Yeah, it's like a horror show in miniature. The feeding style is totally unique. It's all about suction and precision. Once it finds a target, a whale, a seal, whatever, it uses these incredibly strong mouth and throat muscles.
Yeah.
And those rubbery lips you mentioned, those vacuum-like lips, to just instantaneously glom onto the victim's side.
Glom onto, like latch on super tight.
Exactly. That adhesion is step one. Then it creates powerful suction. It uses its tongue, which is surprisingly large and mobile for a shark to actually pull a plug of flesh inward. While it's locked on, those smaller upper teeth, they dig in, grip the flesh, like tiny grappling hooks, or maybe the tines of a fork, holding the skin steady.
Okay, so the upper teeth pin it down, and the main cut, that's the lower teeth.
Absolutely. The lower teeth are something else. They're perfectly triangular, fused together in this continuous crescent-shaped band. Razor sharp. They basically function like a single-bladed guillotine. Once the tissue is held by the upper teeth and pulled in by the suction, those lower teeth slice right through. And then, get this, the shark does this rapid little twirl of its body. A quick spin, and that cleanly detaches the cookie plug of flesh. It's fast, efficient, and pretty devastating.
That speed must be key, right? Minimizes the time the big guy has to shake it off. And you mentioned the teeth are special to keep that edge.
Right, the efficiency is maintained through a unique dental system. Most sharks lose and replace teeth one by one continuously. The cookie cutter. It sheds and replaces the entire lower row of teeth as one single band.
The whole row at
The
once.
whole row. This makes sure every single tooth in that cutting edge is perfect, razor sharp, uniform, guarantees maximum cutting force every single time it attacks.
And the result is that wound. That
Right.
gives it the name. That perfect deep circular hole, like someone used a cookie cutter or maybe an ice cream scoop, like you said earlier.
Exactly. That's the signature. Now, technically, they're ectoparasites feeding on the outside of the host. But they definitely use this hyper-aggressive smash and grab style, not like hanging on for a long meal.
Yeah.
But the really big question is always, how does something so small get close enough? Close enough to something huge and fast without just getting eaten immediately?
Ah, right. Which brings us to maybe nature's greatest bait and switch. We mentioned that eerie glow earlier.
Yes, the bioluminescence. This is fascinating. Almost the entire underside of the shark is covered in these tiny light-producing organs, photophores, and they emit this soft blue-green light.
So it glows in the dark. Why?
Well, that glow is the heart of its hunting strategy. Deep down, it's actually advanced camouflage. It's a process called counterillumination. The light from its belly matches the faint sunlight filtering down from the surface.
Okay, so if something is looking up from below.
Exactly. The shark's silhouette just disappears. It blends into the ambient light from above. It makes itself effectively invisible.
Right, hiding its shadow. But wait, if it's invisible, why does it have that one dark spot? The collar you mentioned.
That is the trap. The whole deception relies on that one critical feature. There's a dark band around its neck. Looks kind of like a dog collar, right? And it's the only part of its underside that doesn't light up. Everything else glows, but that narrow strip stays dark.
I think I see where this is going. So a big predator, maybe a tuna or a sperm whale, hunting from below, looking up towards the faint light.
Precisely. They see the faint surface light. 99% of the cookie cutter shark is invisible, thanks to the counterillumination. But that dark band, to that predator looking up, it looks exactly like the silhouette of a small, slow, tasty little fish, swimming alone near the surface. An easy snack.
So it lures the real predator in, thinking it's the hunter getting an easy meal. But when it gets close, the cookie cutter, the supposed bait, strikes first, turns the hunter into the hunted, or at least the wounded, instantly. That's an incredibly high risk, high reward strategy.
And you just have to look at its success rate. This half-meter shark consistently takes bites out of the giants. Its victim list is like a who's who of marine apex predators. Great whites, basking sharks, whales of all kinds, dolphins, huge tuna, marlins, seals. Pretty much anything big that moves vertically through that twilight zone is a potential target.
But the story gets even more, well, absurd when you bring humans into it, or rather, human creations. Seems the cookie cutter has an equal opportunity appetite. It doesn't seem to care about advanced military tech.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably the most compelling anecdote about them. Cookie cutter sharks are notorious for attacking the soft, exposed bits of man-made vessels. They go after cables, sure, but most famously, the sonar domes on nuclear submarines. Those are often covered in soft rubber or special acoustic materials.
Okay, just pause and picture that. An animal smaller than a house cat, causing potentially millions in damage and messing with military operations. There are actual documented reports, right, of these tiny bites disabling critical sonar, forcing submarines back to port for repairs.
Yes, completely disabling them, forcing mission aborts, lengthy, expensive repairs. It genuinely speaks volumes about the sheer force and consistency of that bite. It's so clean and deep it messes up the dome's hydrodynamics and acoustic integrity. This tiny little opportunist has literally forced military engineers to develop a specific defense against it.
A technological defense against a tiny shark. What did they come up with?
Well, because of the cookie cutter threat, many nuclear submarine sonar domes are now fitted with these rigid protective fiberglass covers. It's just astonishing, isn't it? A deep-sea parasitic shark influencing the design of cutting-edge military hardware.
That's incredible. But okay, flip side. While it causes chaos for subs, those same distinctive scars are actually proving useful for science.
They are, yeah. In a strange twist, they act like a unique natural tagging system. Because the bites are so deep and heal into such recognizable scars, they can last for decades. So researchers can use them to gather data on animals that are otherwise incredibly difficult to track or study closely.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. There was a study on orcas, killer whales, off California and Oregon. Researchers managed to identify an entire family pod because almost every single one of them had these telltale cookie-cutter scars. And that was a huge finding because it told them this specific orca population spends significant time way out in the open ocean in the deep water zones where cookie cutters hunt. That wasn't known before.
Wow. And it helps with figuring out how long some animals live too, right? For those really elusive deep diving whales.
Exactly. With animals like Blainville's beaked whales, those scars can stay visible for 20 years, maybe more. We know so little about the lifespans of these really cryptic deep-sea mammals, so seeing the number and fading of those scars gives researchers precious clues to estimate age and track migrations over time.
Okay, this brings us to a slightly unnerving topic. Human encounters. Given that they seem willing to bite pretty much anything, cables, sonar domes, whales, are we ever on the menu?
Thankfully, it's extremely rare, mostly because, they operate way down in the deep, dark ocean where we generally aren't swimming. However, human bites do happen. There was a spate of them in 2019, actually. They called it the Year of the Cookie Cutter, the Kaiwi Channel in Hawaii. 3 different long-distance channel swimmers were bitten over about 4 months.
3 bites on humans in such a short time. That sounds like there was a pattern or a reason.
Well, the pattern seemed to strongly confirm that visual lure theory we talked about. The attacks nearly always happened on moonless nights, pitch black. And swimmers doing those long distances often wear lighted safety gear, like glow sticks or strobes. Or their support crew might shine a flashlight on them during feeding breaks.
Ah, so they might be inadvertently setting the trap on themselves, making themselves look like bait.
That's the leading hypothesis, yeah. Those intense, localized points of light against a dark shape. It's thought they perfectly mimic the cookie cutter's own lure strategy. The shark probably locks onto that light source, strikes, and then is likely pretty surprised to find a large human attached.
And for anyone wondering, if you are incredibly unlucky enough to get sampled by one, what's the damage?
Well, the wounds look frighteningly deep, no doubt, usually 2 to 4 inches across. But generally, they aren't life-threatening. The shark just takes that plug and leaves. The main immediate issue is bleeding, so quick compression is key, followed by proper medical attention, of course.
Okay, so we've covered how they hunt, what they eat, the chaos they cause, even their impact on technology and research. But because they live where they live, deep ocean predators, they are incredibly hard to study directly, which means there are still some really fundamental things we just don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Significant gaps remain. For instance, we still don't fully understand the precise chemical compounds they use to generate that incredibly bright glow, or exactly how they control it so perfectly for the counter-illumination effect.
And what about their metabolism? We know about the oily liver, but do we know how often they actually need to land one of those big, high-risk bites on a whale or shark to survive?
No, we don't know the exact frequency of the big hits. We do know they supplement their diet. They eat smaller stuff too, midwater squid, maybe crustaceans down deep during the day. But figuring out the energy budget, how much they get from a whale chunk versus how much they spend, that's still unclear.
And the biggest mystery of all, the one that seems to really puzzle marine biologists studying this shark?
We have never found a juvenile, not once. We've seen adults, large ones. We found pregnant females carrying pups. We see the wounds they leave everywhere. But what life looks like for a young cookie-cutter shark, where they live, what they eat, how they grow, it remains a complete mystery.
It is genuinely incredible when you stop and think about it. This tiny, glowing, parasitic shark. It evolved this perfect disposable weapons system to hunt prey, sometimes hundreds of times its size, and it impacts everything from the biggest whales down to, well, nuclear technology.
It really shows, doesn't it? That knowledge is most valuable when you understand its application. The cookie-cutter shark tells us pretty clearly that in the evolutionary game, the biggest threats don't always come in the biggest packages. Sometimes the most effective approach, the best defense even, is learning how to perfectly mimic vulnerability, how to become the bait.
So what does it all mean then? Considering the huge impact this little shark has across the entire ocean ecosystem, from whales to subs, what major behaviors, what secrets, what crucial parts of its life story are hidden in that missing juvenile stage? That missing decade or two we know nothing about. What is the young cookie-cutter shark doing down there? That's definitely something to mull over.